First story. New boyfriend 31 male of 9 months, is insatiable as solely. I 32 female am not used to saying no. And the frequency with which he seeks X is really startling. Advice from people dating and married to people with high X drive. I am a year post-divorce and back into an otherwise incredible relationship. My ex-husband and I are on good terms. We got married young and become two very different people. We went through a very dark time. Got a divorce and since then have been far more cordial and friendly than we were in the last years of our marriage. But, due to some personal issues, my ex-husband and I almost never had X. We were married for 9 years and together for 11, and I would say that within the last 6 years it was, at best, semi-annually. It destroyed my self-esteem. So, we divorce. I work on me. I go on a few dates and it was pretty rotten. Then I reconnect with an old friend. Rather platonically. As I wanted to send my condolences as I found out his wife had passed a while ago. We meet for coffee. We have an attraction and it just goes from there. My boyfriend is, solely speaking, the polar opposite of my ex. My ex could only do it under very specific circumstances, and had specific requirements. My boyfriend has no such requirements. And things that should be a turn-off seem to be the opposite. I come home from the gym and reek. He's into it. I am just out of the shower. He's into it. I am washing dishes. He's into it. I am wearing crappy leggings and a housecoat. Apparently that's just lingerie with more layers. Haven't shaved my pit's legs in a couple of days. Well, apparently that's hot. 2. He will ask for X many times a day. 2 or 3 times a day he'll make a move. If I say no, he backs off and doesn't push. But I also sometimes just do it to make him happy. I am not against it, and it's nice to have someone who is so solely attracted. It's a huge ego boost for sure. I mentioned it to my therapist and she said she was concerned. On one hand, I am not used to someone with a high X drive. He's very different than my ex. My ex had very low levels of energy in general, whereas my current boyfriend has boundless energy. He runs even in the freezing cold. He is always doing something. Learning something or thinking about ways to improve something. He exercises regularly and his downtime is reading or studying. It could just be a difference in energy levels. But if my boyfriend had his way, we'd have X 15 or 16 times a week. He respects my boundaries but has none of his own. It's been great to help me try new things and engage in my own fantasies. But I've never met anyone like that. When my therapist said she was concerned, I didn't know what to say. I don't feel like he doesn't respect my boundaries. I don't feel like this is that crazy. But my marriage was so very toxic for entirely different reasons that I feel like I need a sanity check. On the whole, am I happy? Yes. Is this more of what I had been looking for in life? Yes. Could I see a future for the two of us? Absolutely. But I am now questioning myself over the whole X issue, as now my therapist has cast doubt. Too long didn't read boyfriend tries to initiate X anywhere from 20 times a week. If I say no, he stops. Sometimes I say yes because he seems so excited. I didn't think anything was all that wrong until my therapist said she had concerns. Now I feel like I need a sanity check to get a sense about other people's experiences with men with very high X drives. Update. Well, it's been a week. I wanted to thank everyone for their comments and support. I had a weekly session with my therapist and asked directly what was concerning, and asked it straight off the bat. In short, the session went south almost immediately. She had no real reason why it was concerning, but starting to say that it could be the sign of a personality disorder. past soul trauma, or even a brain tumor. I began to spin. The session didn't get very far. I was totally confused, and so I called my family doctor. She had phone consults, and I told her everything, including what the therapist had said, and the doctor laughed. She said it was so unlikely to be anything and said things that were reassuring. A lot of what was said here. Basically, he's a healthy, vital 31-year-old male who was in a restless relationship for several years and is working out his additional interest. She said enjoy it and gave me a referral to a different therapist. I called the new therapist almost right away. They were really responsive, and we had a quick intro session. I explained why I was switching, and she said it sounded like jealousy on behalf of other therapists, but wouldn't explain further. Over Christmas, my boyfriend and I had a very long, personal, detailed conversation about our future, and in the new year, we're going to jointly find a new place to live and move in together. His soul advances haven't slowed. Not one iota. I got my COVID booster and felt really punk, and he was just so present. He laid with me, and we watched A Christmas Story, and he stroked my hair. I realized I was letting my last therapist dictate how I felt when the reality was right in front of me. I was being toxic, and his soul interest was the opposite of toxic. We had Christmas with both families, and my parents again told me how excited they were I was in a happy relationship, and how great it was to have a nice, happy person as my partner. Particularly one who loves to eat and Christmas and enjoys family gatherings. All in all, I feel like a good, and reading my last post makes me cringe. Too long, didn't read. Therapist had no reason to say concerned. She tried to pass it off as a tumor. I had to switch therapists and get away from her, as it was just going downhill. Looking back, I realized she was trying to tell me how to feel about things I knew were healthy and normal. Thank you for your advice. I was worried about OP. Even when she said her boyfriend easily takes no for an answer. I was waiting for her to say the boyfriend gets passive-aggressive. But that didn't happen. Now I'm a bit jealous. And the cuddling watching A Christmas Story. Now I want her boyfriend. I'm a big believer in mental health and well-being and therapy, etc. But it is terrifying how much a shitty therapist can duck someone up. Especially as you're at your most vulnerable when you see a therapist usually. Honestly, that had me questioning how many people have been ducked up by crappy therapists with how much power they have over their patients because they trust them. I think her mindset showed how she was still dealing with her lower self-esteem when she listed off reasons she wasn't perfect. But the reasons were pretty normal day-to-day life. He sounds like he just has a high drive and enjoys how she looks casually. What guy doesn't check out his significant others, but if she's slightly bent over the counter in leggings doing dishes? I had a close friend. He had an amazing therapist who was also his most trusted person. The therapist treated both him and his wife. I even met him over Skype with my friend. He wanted to thank me for being such an amazing support for my friend when he was depressed. Some stuff happens with friend. Therapist counseled him, and they conclude divorce is the best option. Less than a year later, the therapist took his own life. Turns out he had been in love with my friend's now ex-wife for years, and after splitting them, and her not reciprocating his advances, it destroyed him with guilt. Turns out he had his own issues he couldn't get help for. It nearly destroyed my friend. And that scared the shit out of me, and I've put off getting therapy for myself for years because of it. Did they get back together, or was the case investigated? This is why therapists need therapists. It was over a year after they'd split, and my friend and his wife were already dating other people by then. I think my friend, after losing someone he cared so much for, didn't want to go further with it. Which I don't blame him for, to be honest. The suicide was a huge shock, and my friend considered it penance enough. Just scary as duck that someone you trust so much can have that whole other side. Second story. Long husband is allergic to cats. And his new doctor doesn't seem to be sympathetic. What's happening? Doctor suggested we either break up the family or husband pays full cost of allergy meds. Is this normal? 42 male Canada. I hope this is the right place. Sorry if I didn't do this correctly. Just need some advice. About a year ago, a friend offered us a cat. I said no, because my husband has allergies. I told him about the cat and how I wished I could have a cat one day, as my parents never let me have one. I also thought it would be good for my mental health. COVID put a lot of stress on me. My husband said he thought his asthma and allergies had improved a lot since childhood. He no longer needed puffers. And he had lived with a cat before. So we decided it wouldn't be much of an impact, and we took the cat. About a month in, he started getting really wheezy. He tried allergy meds and one brand helped a bit, but the others not so much. I have a Ventolin puffer for exercise-induced asthma. He asked to use it and his symptoms improved. He went through my inhaler, and I told him to get his own once he could get in to see a doctor. He went to our family doctor and got a prescription for Ventolin. He has been fine and uses about one puffer every 6-8 WKS. Our doctor left the country, and a new one replaced her. Recently he went for a checkup with new doc, and to get a refill of the Ventolin. The doctor told him to get rid of our cat. He explained that we can't just ditch our cat. He's a part of the family. He didn't anticipate being this allergic. The doctor said, well, it's your fault, you have allergies, and are refusing to remove the problem, so you have to pay the full price of the Ventolin. We have double insurance that covers prescriptions. But she wrote the script in a way that means he cannot get the Ventolin covered under our insurance. I think it was inappropriate for the doctor to suggest breaking up our family over allergies. And if we don't deserve drug coverage. My cat is registered with the city at our address. He has his own doctor, license, ID, birthday, name. I don't understand how he could be seen as not a member of our family. It enrages me that the doctor thinks this is a reasonable solution. Much more plausible than letting husband have coverage for meds he now needs to breathe. I feel like he is being punished for having allergies and not knowing how bad they would be. In hindsight, maybe it was a bad idea to get a cat. But we didn't know what we know now. And it's done now. It was an honest mistake. And he has been suffering. He tried OTC, and it wasn't enough. He is still paying for OTC, and now his costs have doubled. We pay a lot for insurance. Why would the doctor punish us and not let us use it? What repercussion could she face by providing coverage for medication he needs? Is this a normal thing for a doctor to do? I feel like we are being taxed because she does not value animals, our family status, or my mental health. Is this a common attitude among doctors? I've called the complaint line of the College for Physicians to get some advice as well. I am looking for a new family doc. But it is really hard to find one. I have to go and see this doctor next week, as I have needs, and I can't find another one to go to. I am dreading the appointment. I feel like she has no respect for my family. I also feel like I can't do much about it. She can fire me as a patient, and then what do I do? She has all the power and we have none. We are at her mercy if we want access to health care in the next 12 months. I thought doctors were supposed to help. I feel like we are not being helped at all, but judged and punished. Am I blowing this out of proportion? Would most doctors behave this way? Thank you. Update. Problem solved. Meds are covered. Thank you so much for your perspectives and especially your suggestions. If you want more, here it is. So the entire thing was a complete misunderstanding on my part, and my husband's part. Our new doctor is not at fault at all and did not do anything to try and block coverage. Meds are covered. When he told me that she suggested we get rid of the cat, and that she wouldn't let the meds be covered. That was both not the whole story, and not exactly what she said. I was so worried because I really like her, and I didn't want to can't even if I had to find a new doctor. I was so surprised and shocked that she would take that attitude. She didn't. So today, after posting here, I called the pharmacy and they didn't seem to think there would be any problem. They couldn't explain the blocking insurance thing or how that would work. So I was puzzled. Then the lady said something funny, he didn't have any insurance coverage. Then I got really confused. When my husband came home, I confronted him about the whole thing. I asked him to tell me word for word, as best as he could remember, the conversation with the doctor. It turns out that, while she did suggest he get rid of the cat, it was before he could offer more explanation, and it turns out she also said it much more gently than he did to me. He basically communicated the conversation very poorly last night. He gave me a summary that had all the worst parts taken out of context. It all sounded much worse last night. But let's not go there. Once he explained, she agreed with him that the removal of the cat was not an option for us, given how we all view the cat's role in our family. They moved into other treatment options and lots were explored, much more than the Ventolin. But in the end they agreed that he is doing well, and his use was below any worrisome THRE holds. Off he went with his Ventolin. Now, he was not clear on this. He said she might have said that we might have trouble with insurance coverage. Or maybe said it was not covered under provincial coverage, which is totally fine and understandable. Or may have said that she would write something that would make it not covered. I was pretty sure she meant no provincial coverage, which is standard for most scripts in my province. But maybe she explains that to people so they are not surfaced. Based on what happened later, I honestly don't think she said or did anything to try and prevent him from getting coverage. So husband says he is going to fill the prescription. I tell him he must give the pharmacy both his and mine insurance info. He says, no, they have it. It just doesn't work. I insist. I make him swear on his life he will take the cards and give them to the pharmacist. And he did. And you know what? They worked. Too long didn't read. My husband thinks the pharmacy magically had his insurance info, causing him to think his Ventolin is not covered, causing me to doubt our doctor. Not the case. We're just idiots. In my honest opinion, doctors are kinda scary to me sometimes. The relationship is pretty tilted in their favor. They know a lot. I know practically nothing, except how I feel. Now, I really appreciated the comments, and most were really helpful. Even if they agreed with the doctor or disagreed with me, they made important points that she had to suggest getting rid of the cat. But her way of doing it, and her response to finding out that wasn't possible, was actually, it now sounds to be totally reasonable and not what I thought. So much relief that this is the case. Now there were some comments, and I have to say, you really made me feel my Canadianness or something. And oh boy, we may love each other and be neighbors, but like any siblings, can be oceans apart in our views. The idea that insurance is not like a subway ride, and that insurance companies should have this whole stash of info on you since birth, and collude with doctors, so only the worthy causes get help, is a disturbing concept to me. In my province, all of our emergency medicine, visiting the family doctor, is free. We do not pay provincial premiums even. Some provinces do. I pay, through my employer, premium rates, so more than the minimum required rate, for extra coverage for optical, dental, massage and 100% drug coverage, and lots of other stuff. I am insured out the yin-yang, and we use what we need when we need it. My husband needs some help to breathe better right now. That's not fraud. He really does needs the help. I refuse to be shamed for using my health insurance. Shame on anyone who shames someone for using health insurance. That's what it's for. To keep you healthy and away from the doctor hospital. If I understand my country properly. No matter what stupid thing I do. Healthcare is there. Sometimes eventually. In non-life-threatening cases, but the 2 times I legit needed emergency care, it was there for me. Maybe I am wrong. But I've never heard the term pre-existing condition in Canadian healthcare. And I like it that way. Thank you. Yes. I was so confused. Never heard anything like that at all. It's not true. And also my pharmacist throwing out some line about pre-existing conditions is also not a thing in Canada. I think she just watches too much American TV. I posted an update where it turns out my husband literally made up this whole scenario because he doesn't understand how things work. He blamed the doctor when really it was his fault. He simply did not provide our pharmacy with his insurance info. So of course his meds were not covered. According to them, he had no coverage. He made up the whole thing that she wrote something on the script or called the insurance company. I wish I could explain why he did this. But as he said himself, he can be a total idiot sometimes. I think he has some issues that colored his perception of the whole thing. I think he is feeling guilty that he got himself into this mess by underestimating his allergic reaction. So, in his own mind, maybe he didn't deserve to get coverage. Who TF knows what goes through some people's heads. We had a long talk about how healthcare is for everyone and he deserves to breathe properly. And he should not be punished by anyone for making an honest mistake about his health. He is entitled to use the coverage he pays for. After reading some comments from people who are doctors, I think I understand where he got this mentality of the deserving sick versus the undeserving. That some people deserve health care and some do not. And a doctor should judge you to decide if you are worthy of their help. I work in social work, where we call this the charity model. And the myth of the deserving versus undeserving poor. And the idea of a moral authority to decide who gets help and who doesn't. This model has existed since the 1600s. So it is very ingrained in our systems and ways we understand ourselves. And how we view vulnerable people who request help meeting their needs. This is not the first time I had asked him if he submitted his insurance to the pharmacy. And I assumed he already understood what I was asking and did it. But he ignored my question and advice. So we also had a long talk about showing some more respect for the things I say and do. That I am trying to help him. I am on his side. Arguing with me is bizarre in that context, and self-sabotage is not gonna fly in this marriage. We can be our own worst enemies. And I think I learned something valuable about my husband's complicated relationship with his own health. This seems weird. Is husband really that much of an idiot? Is it possible he misrepresented things because he wants to get rid of the cat? I considered that as well. But he might also be that much of an idiot. Or very bad at communicating that, but let's not go there. From OP made me think it's not the first time he does something like this. I also wondered if OP has some guilt about needing the cat, which is hurting her husband and is primed to. Here, stop being selfish and get rid of the cat. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to our channel.